Well, what's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. It's time for our Major 1 bracket prediction. I know I've done a lot of preview stuff. Been looking forward to this major for months now. Let's go to the bracket. I'll give you my predictions on who I think is going to make it deep in the tournament, who might make an early exit, and ultimately who is going to win this whole thing in Boston this weekend. All right, so we're going to start in the winners bracket. We'll go to losers. We'll kind of like bounce back and forth, so hopefully it's kind of easy to follow. If not, I'm sorry. Starting at the top, our first match, Atlanta FaZe versus LAG. These teams played recently, and FaZe beat them 3-0, but I think the maps were pretty close. I think at best I give LAG like maybe one map, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with a FaZe 3-0. I think FaZe either win this 3-0 or 3-1. Just a tough draw for LAG, and they will get bounced down to losers. All right, right into it. Miami Heretics, OPTIC Texas. Last match on Thursday. These teams played recently, and Miami took the best of OPTIC. I expect OPTIC to play a little bit better in this series, but I really don't know what to expect from OPTIC in this tournament, to be honest. I think they are going to be motivated for this rematch, but I think so is Miami. And I actually think, I'm debating going back and forth on this, but I think I'm going to take Miami into game 5. I can really see this going, honestly, either way. It's really tough for a team to lose like an immediate rematch, for a team to win again an immediate rematch like this. But I think right now, Miami's playing some better team COD. I'm going to use that as a tiebreaker, but I'm not super confident in this pick, to be honest. I feel like there's a very 50-50 matchup right now. All right, next up we have Toronto versus Seattle. They played, I believe, before the break, and Toronto 3-0'd them. And I just don't see this as a great matchup for Seattle. I'm going to give them an S&D map too. But I just don't think they're on the class of Toronto as far as respawns go. And I think they're going to get bounced to the losers bracket because of that. And then we got New York versus the Minnesota Rocker. I was low-key debating kind of putting Minnesota to maybe win this one, but I think New York's just going to clutch it in a game 5 S&D. I haven't been super convinced by New York's respawn, and there is a chance they come out hot and just kind of 3-0 this. But I want to give Minnesota a little bit of respect from last week, so I'm going to pick 3-2. But I'm going to be honest, I could see a role where Minnesota don't show up to this one. It's a fast 3-0. All right, so those are your winners 2 matches set. We might as well kind of fish them up here. Atlanta FaZe versus Miami Heretics. I'm going to go, I think FaZe win this, and I'm going to give Miami like a control or something like that. I think there's good for at least one map in this, but as good as Miami's teamwork is, I just think the slaying on FaZe and the better search team, I think, is going to be enough for them to get it done in the series. And then we get the Toronto versus New York matchup. This one, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago with this matchup. To me, it's very interesting and spicy because Toronto is a much better respawn team. New York's a better search team. In these situations, I kind of, if it goes game 5, obviously, I feel like New York's got a better shot. But I'm going to say Toronto 3-1. I think Toronto take 3 respawns and get this done. Last time they played, they 3-0'd them pretty badly. I think New York will be good for at least one map, but it's hard for me to pick New York against how dominant Toronto's looked at these respawns, especially Hardpoint. They look like the best Hardpoint team in the game right now. All right, let's scroll down now and start making our way through the losers bracket. First off, we have LAG versus the Los Angeles Thieves. LAG historically has owned this matchup, and unfortunately for the Thieves, I haven't seen enough to make me convinced that they're going to really be able to win this one. I'm going to say a game 5 heater. But I think LAG will prevail and LA Thieves will get dead last in this one. All right, OPTIC Texas versus Vegas. Sorry for Vegas. This is going to be a 20-minute series. I just don't see path forward for Vegas. I know they recently played. I know Vegas went up 2-0 in the series. So yes, there's a chance where there's an upset in this one. But I just think OPTIC would be motivated after losing a close one to Miami, and I think they're going to rebound pretty solidly against Vegas. I'd be super surprised if they lost this. That'd be a huge upset. I just don't see it right now. Do you want to bounce around? I guess we just kind of finish the top. LAG versus OPTIC. Ooh, I'm going to say OPTIC 3-1. I want to give potentially LAG 2 maps. The problem is, I think in a series like this, they're just going to find ways to beat themselves against an OPTIC team that I think is still working on their teamwork. So I'm going to give them like one map, probably like a search, but I just don't see a path for LAG to force this one to game 5. And even if it goes for game 5, like I don't think LAG search is good enough to really clutch this one. And then to finish things off, New York versus OPTIC Texas is an interesting one for top 4. Which team do I trust more? There's a real tough one. I am going to say New York game 5. I could see OPTIC winning this one. I think New York's respawn at times can be a little bit up and down, but I'm more confident in New York executing, like even it's like a high-rise search, right? You expect OPTIC to have playmakers on a map like that. Like New York's just look really, really solid in S&D, and I feel like it's going to help them against an OPTIC Texas team that, has that respawn firepower. And this would be a real, again, I think this would be a tough, top 6 for OPTIC, just missing out on making it to top 4. And obviously, again, if they win this rematch versus Miami, they go against FaZe. It's a little bit maybe of a different story. You go to the bottom side of this bracket, you see where Miami is. It's a little bit of an easier road, and I can see them getting top 4 that way. But if they lose early, they got to play through a New York team that loses Toronto. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be really tough. So we'll see if a draw happens this way. I could be wrong, but you know, if this is how we predict, I think this is definitely a tricky match for Optic. They win this though, I think they're gonna get a load of confidence going forward towards Sunday. All right, let's do the bottom side. Seattle versus Boston. Ooh, this is a real sketchy one. So they did play earlier this year before the break, and Boston won first map, and I think Seattle won the next 3. I don't really know how to call this one. I just feel like, unfortunately, this is such a toss-up to me. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and get Boston a game 5 win here, and a real disappointing one for Seattle. I don't know. It's a coin toss to me. I think Boston's been much better than what we've seen so far this split. I think Seattle respawn is very questionable to me right now. Once you get Terminal out of the picture, but maybe Boston squares up with them on Terminal. I don't know, because Boston's map pool is a bit funky. I just feel like Boston is just going to take that momentum, not wanting to get first rounded at home and get it done. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm picking an upset here. I'm picking an upset. Minnesota versus Carolina. Minnesota recently beat them 3-0. That was with TJ subbing in for Real with a little more practice. I'm still going to take Minnesota 3-0 in this one. I just don't see it with this Carolina team. Them having the firepower to get it done, but maybe this one is the big upset one that we don't predict. Who knows? And then we got Boston versus Minnesota. This is an interesting one. I'm trying to remember if these teams have played this split. I don't think they did. I think this is an interesting one because both teams like more aggressive players have been starting to really pick it up in recent matches. So I think that Boston, I trust the ARs more on Boston than I do on Rocker at the moment, but Scott is so day to day. I'm going to take another game 5 victory for Boston to get top 6. An absolute heater. I think this Boston Minnesota series has got like series of the year potential because of just sort of how these two teams match up. I don't know. I could be BSing with that, but I could see this one being a real heater on first match on Saturday. All right, let's finish off Miami versus Boston. Unfortunately for Boston, I think this is probably where the road ends. I'll take Miami actually in a... do I do 3-0? Do I do 3-1 is kind of the question here. They did play earlier. I think they played actually last week, and Miami took first map, and Boston won 3 straight. But I feel like Miami wins the rematch in this one, so I'll give Boston a map. Like I'm Miami taking it. That being said, do I want to bank on Boston like making like a run here? I don't know, man. It's just tough. The thing with this matchup is almost like I feel like we're going to see some weird terminal square ups in this one, but I don't know, man. I just feel more confident in Miami with the teamwork wise they do in Boston. I expect Miami to win this, but that'd be really interesting, man. If Boston makes a little bit of a loser's run here to top 4, that would be a surprising, I think, development. Let's take a look at loser semis. So that'll be the first matchup on Sunday. New York versus the Miami Heretics. They did not play during the split. Miami's really good at control. New York's really good at search. I think the hard points are a little bit more of a wash. I'm going to take New York 3-1 in this one. I feel like this is where Miami's road ends. I think New York's just got a little bit more quality about them. And not a bad placing for Miami. Top 4 would be huge for them. It's just some good momentum to really kick it on. I just think New York's just got a little bit more firepower, and it's going to be tough for Miami to overcome that. But the crowd's going to be behind Miami in this matchup, I'll tell you that. All right, winners finals, FaZe versus Toronto. We haven't yet seen this matchup this year, but these two teams play, I swear, like 7 times a year. I think we're going to see it a bunch this year. My concern for Toronto in this matchup, well, is that I think like they're going to take map 1 in this series. I think they're a team that's just really good in those map 1 hard points in general. They're a better hard point team than FaZe. The thing is, I feel like FaZe's control has gotten better, and that was sort of where I think Toronto had the edge last year whenever this matchup happened. They trade maps early. Toronto would win map 3 and 4 and then kind of close it out there. If it goes to a game 5, I trust FaZe. I'm going to say this one's back and forth, then FaZe take it 3-2, and another just good hitter between these two teams. And FaZe will move on to the grand finals. All right, we're back to Toronto versus New York. There's a rematch from last week. Toronto slammed New York. Obviously, I have them earlier in this tournament playing, and Toronto winning 3-1. It's just a question of how does this rematch go down? Do I feel like New York make a little bit of run here, or am I going to bank on Toronto? I'm going to have Toronto take this game 5. I actually do think New York has a legit good chance in a rematch like this, but I said before I did this bracket prediction like on the flank that I thought FaZe and Toronto would be the rematch, or I thought that FaZe and Toronto would be the match in grand finals, so we're going to go ahead and stick with that. So New York get top 3. I think that's a solid placing for them. Be a little bit disappointed. They weren't able to beat Toronto twice. It's the only team they lose to, but That's how it goes sometimes, and they will work on that going into the second major. All right, and finally, we got the FaZe versus Toronto grand final. FaZe will, in this situation, come from winners, and I'm going to take it. We've talked a bunch about this. I'm going to take it 4-2, and the reason for that is there are a number of maps, I think, in Toronto's map pool that they've tried recently, and I don't know. I know that FaZe are good at them, like high-rise control, that Toronto would not be able to get rid of in this series. And I feel like we've seen this play out last year, and I think it's going to happen again this year. That map 5 and 6 combo in these best of 7s. It was map 7 and 8 in the best of 9s. Always get a little bit funky in this one, and that's when like the teams have the deeper map pool really benefits them. I think FaZe have a deeper map pool than Toronto right now, especially in S&D and especially in control. And I feel like this one won't go to 7, but it will go to 6, and FaZe will clutch that on high-rise control for the win. So I feel pretty good about this bracket prediction. The OPTIC one's a weird one for me. The two teams I think in this bracket prediction that I'm really not sure on how they're going to play is OPTIC, because they didn't look good last week, but this team like didn't look that good at the beginning of Major 3 last year, or Major 2, whichever one was the Dallas one. And then they kind of made the run in the losers bracket, so who knows. And then Miami, top 4, I think is maybe one that could fall short to Boston here, because I actually could see Boston. If I could pick a team streaking at this event, I feel like it could be Boston. It could also be Seattle, right? Seattle beats Boston. They play Minnesota. They could beat them. And suddenly it's Seattle versus Miami. Like, I could see Seattle also getting top 4 at this one. So there's a lot of different ways this bracket can get very weird. That's this prediction. But right now, I'm going to stick with this one, FaZe versus Toronto. We're going to lock it in. Bada bing, bada boom, submit. And there you go. I think we're going to see this matchup a lot this year. And FaZe will walk away as your Major 1 champion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.